we've had clients, and I'm sure everybody has dealt with organizations who, in addition to why us, why me, why would you target us, worried that the payment, some kind of an assurance from these people with seemingly no moral code that, if I make this payment, am I going to get my key? And if you could speak a little bit about, that issue, number one, do we get the key? And then number two, I suspect, given the experience that you've had, Carolyn and Bill, that based on the actor, who I suspect you see frequent flyers, you might be able to tell people, well, it's likely we'll get the key, or it's likely that though they demanded X, we might be able to negotiate it down to Y. Any of those sort of inside intel that you can give us?
Absolutely. So again, kind of the first thing is that ransom note that allows us to identify who the potential threat actor is. And then we talk about history with the threat actor. So let's talk about Conti, for example. With Conti, the question is, will I get a key and will it work? I can say emphatically, CRA has worked on north of about 150 Conti cases. For our clients that have unfortunately had to pay, we have received a key and it has worked 100% of the time. Discounts, with every threat group that we have out there, we keep tracking mechanisms of how far that we think that we can get them down off their initial ask. Now, what that means is, hypothetically, let's say the ransom demands $1 million. With this particular threat group, if we have history with them, we could tell you we could probably get it down anywhere between 30 to 60% off the initial ask. That means the longer time period that we have, the more we're able to negotiate it down. Now, it's all dependent on the threat group. I say that because there are certain threat groups that are out there that the price is the price. So if we're dealing with a certain group that doesn't discount, we will let you know right away. And if it's a large number, we'll also tell you, look, they're asking for X. They normally don't discount this. This is the way it is. As opposed to other groups, we can say, they're asking for X. We think we can get it to Y or lower. I say that because time is our friend or the enemy. If you have a good disaster recovery plan and we have adequate backups and we can get our operations up and going very quickly and we have time, hence we're not burning cash flow. If we have the opposite situation, then we need to negotiate quickly in order to secure and buy a key. Now, your threat actors understand this as well. So it gets down to the aspect of how much time can we negotiate. There's been many instances to where we're just negotiating for what we call data suppression. Hence, we don't want the data publicized out there, and we want the threat actor to quasi-destroy it and provide it back to us. In those types of situations, we can normally secure greater discounts because I have the luxury of time. Remember, they want to get paid. So from an offer perspective, if we hold the line at a certain amount, the threat actor has to make a determination. Do I want to gain financial compensation for this? Or do I just want to walk away? Well, when you're putting a potential number out there, for example, $500,000, that's a lot of money to walk away from. When you start broaching into the millions of dollars, again, they have to make a determination where they're going to go. There's been many instances that CRA has worked on that the initial demand has been $20 million, $30 million. From that, we've been able to successfully negotiate those down to be anywhere between $1 million to $2 million for financial payment. The reason we've been so successful in doing that, again, is because of the luxury of time. Hence, the proper disaster recovery plans were in place. The company is able to functionally operate. We're able to deploy those EDR tools in order to do proper containment eradication. Now we're just paying the threat actor for hence data suppression, and also for them not to be, also for our organization not to be re-victimized. So in any type of payment, we kind of go through a four-pronged process. Number one, decryption key, the most important thing. Will it work? I will tell you that all the decryption keys CRA has bought have worked except for two. And I know those cases quite well. And if I see those threat actors again, I notify my client and I'm like, we got to be cautious here because I don't think those are going to work. All right. The second item that we have to look at from any payment organization is the sensitivity of the data that they have taken. Unfortunately, your threat actors are taking anywhere between 100 gigs of data up to, we had one client, unfortunately, that went over 10 terabytes of data that went out of the company. That's a lot of data to take. And hence, that's a lot of information to kind of go through to figure out, you know, what's the value of it worth. The third item that we look at is what we call the harassment factor. Caroline talked about this a little bit earlier. I showed it to you up on the different blogs that we were looking at. That's distributed denial of service attacks. That's emailing employees, calling employees, potentially blackmailing employees with the data that they have. That's what we call the harassment. And it can go on for weeks if the threat actor desires to do it. So we have to take that into account. The last item that we look at for any payments made is what I call number 4, the regulatory side of the house. If we are a healthcare organization and our data gets encrypted, is it cheaper for me to buy the key at a potential discounted price than have to explain to a regulator that potentially all this data might be exposed? So we kind of have to look at it from a regulatory side. And can I, you know, if I were to buy the key, can I get out of jail in some aspect, as opposed to having to report on everything? So when you take those 4 factors into account, you can make a determination. Is it worth it to the organization from a valuation perspective to purchase this decryptor? Now, again, I'd like to emphasize this for everyone on the call. We do not like paying ransoms at all. We find ourselves, unfortunately, paying ransoms because we weren't in our preventative aspects in order to get the company back up and going in a secure manner. So as you're kind of planning your organization to kind of look at preventative maintenance, that DR plan's critical. And then your records retention policy is also critical because you could potentially get yourself out of this tricky situation if you were to get infiltrated, if you have the proper backups and the sensitivity of your information that the threat actor took is not so sensitive.
But there's so many different nuances associated with this. But one of the things that I did want to make, absolutely clear about, and, Bill, you had said this earlier about, obviously we would never recommend, making payment unless you absolutely have to. But the other piece to it is, just so, everyone is aware, is if they do take the data, if these threat actors do take the data associated with it, it doesn't negate your notification obligation to the individuals as well. So if we do find that the threat actor group took the data, and unfortunately in this day and age, it's most likely that they did, having an understanding as to what data they did take is critical. But then you do have to notify those individuals in the event that there's sensitive information that's in there, or, from a contractual obligation as well.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content, you can click through to the next video right here. Also, if you'd like to stay up to date on more videos like this, like, subscribe, and follow.